What up? What up? We are live. Welcome back to Skin in the Game. I am your host, Austin Thompson, aka OZ, where we talk everything Kansas City Chiefs football. This week is a rough one, man. This is a rough show. It's a hard conversation. It's a hard conversation to talk about a team that's struggling, especially when you're the Chiefs and you're used to success, especially over these last 7 to 8 years. I come from a time when the Chiefs were not very good. I grew up in the early 2000s and where Trent Green, Priest Holmes kind of started out. And they were pretty good then. They were a playoff team, and then they got to kind of the 2010s and the 2015s, and where you had a plethora of quarterbacks, and the team didn't have an identity. And now you're used to this success. You're used to this team making the playoffs. You're used to this team going to the AFC Championship game with Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback. And it's tough to cheer for a team when you have such high hopes, expectations. It's hard to, as a fan, as a diehard fan, it's just tough to watch. It's tough to swallow that it's a possibility the Chiefs don't make the playoffs this year. So, welcome to the show. Again, I'm Austin Thompson, your host, and we have a great show today where we're going to talk about the Week 13 recap, the loss to the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving. I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving, got to enjoy family, got to enjoy friends, loved ones, and some good food. So, belated happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We'll dive back into the playoff picture where the Chiefs do still have a possibility to make the playoffs. So, the hopes and dreams aren't done yet. There still is a path, so we aren't giving up yet. But it's do or die now, and to get to the playoffs, you got to do a lot. We'll talk about. I made a kind of a longer post this week, just thinking about next season, and I want to give my 5 offseason moves that I think are musts for the Chiefs this offseason, and then we'll break down the Sunday night football game against the Houston Texans coming up in Week 14. So let's dive in. Let's dive into the Thanksgiving game. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the chat. I know it was a tough game to watch for a lot of Chiefs fans, and I'm sure we were at my in-laws with my wife's family, and her cousin is a huge Baltimore Ravens fan, and we were chirping back and forth, and it was a fun family feud, but it was tough when the Chiefs lost, and I didn't have a leg to stand on, and he is just hooting and hollering, and it's funny because the Baltimore Ravens ended up losing that night against the Cincinnati Bengals for the final game of Thanksgiving. So I got my lick back, but it was still tough to gut through while trying to enjoy some good food. Okay, let's break down the Dallas Cowboys versus Chiefs Thanksgiving game. So it started out great, and I think, and I would probably assume most of you felt the same way, where the Chiefs started off hot, and you thought, "Wow, Chiefs are taking off. Here we go. We're back, baby. We're back." I was driving to my mother-in-law's house thinking, we are back, baby. Spags dials up a nice blitz, Jalen Watson pick, and then Chiefs score 2 plays later. Rashee Rice screen takes to the house. And it's like, woo, we are back. This is the Chiefs team we knew. And we thought, I know, at least for me, I thought we were off and rolling. And I was like, here we go. This is going to be, we knew it was going to be a high-scoring game. We knew it was going to have to be the first team to 30 I thought was going to win. And I predicted 31-28 Chiefs, and ended up being 31-27 Cowboys. So we knew that it was going to have to be 30 points, and we knew it was going to be a shootout. We knew it was going to be a lot of passes. Running the ball was not going to be a thing. Neither team had a really good running game. It was a lot of throwing the ball around. Dak, I mean, you got to give credit when credit's due. Dak played great, and we talked about CD and George Pickens last week. We knew that they're a 1A, 1B, guys. They're maybe one of the best duos in the league, if not the best duo in the league. And they tore up the Chiefs secondary. I mean, they tore them up. Trent McDuffie, for the first time probably of his career, looked like a very bad corner. And in my opinion, that's why you don't pay corners $100 million. And we'll get into Trent McDuffie later in the show. But the secondary looked horrible. Jalen Watson, even though he had a pick, he was getting cooked on slants all night. George Pickens looked like the next Jerry Rice when it came to running slants. And then the defense, man, the defense could not get off the field. It felt like every third down, 3rd and long, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 10, the Cowboys converted. They went 9 for 16 or something like that, something crazy, converting third downs. And you can't, especially when the offense starts off good. They have a lull in the second and third quarter, but then they finish strong. But when you can, your defense can't get you a stop. You're not getting as many possessions, and so again, we knew it was going to be a 30-point swing, and whoever had got to 30 was going to win. And you needed every possession. And there was multiple times, and this is just how football works, guys. So bear with me, but there's multiple times where the Chiefs had a chance to get an interception. Nick Bolton had a chance at 2 picks, or when Trent McDuffie punches the ball out on Pickens and it falls on like the 8-yard line. There's 4 Chiefs around it, and somehow Turpin, the fastest guy on the field, runs over and gets the fumble. Those are things that are 50-50s. You got to live with them. They happen. The ball bounces one way or the other. It's just football. But it was just that game that it wasn't going right for the Chiefs. Everything was going wrong. Penalties. Let's talk about penalties, guys. This is the third game this season where they had over 100 yards of penalties. And look, I get it. The national media, every other Chiefs or every other NFL fan thinks that the refs are for the Chiefs, that Andy Reid's throwing them $20 every flag. That's not true. Now, does Mahomes maybe get some more protection or a little bit more linear calls? That's probably true. I mean, we can all admit that's probably true. But that game, that it felt very one-sided when it came to the penalties. I don't want to complain, because at the end of the day, I think the Chiefs still had a chance to win. When you need to get a stop and you can get the ball back to Mahomes and you have a chance. So you can't blame the penalties, but you got to blame the players making the penalties, if that makes sense. And it's Trent McDuffie who gives it multiple defensive pass interferences. You got Juwan Taylor, who we know needs to go sit on the bench and never get on the field again. But you just have undisciplined. It's things that we've been talking about for the last few weeks, guys. It's coaching, it's undisciplined, it's personnel. And what's crazy is this is one of the better Chiefs teams in the last 5 years. I mean, personnel-wise, we're talking about skill positions. We're talking about the way Travis Kelce is playing. Talking about Mahomes is having a great year for being 6-6. The guy's going to finish with 4,500 yards and maybe 40 touchdowns. I mean, that a few years ago, that was close to winning you the MVP. I mean, he's having a crazy year, guys, and it's just that things aren't falling their way. And it comes back to discipline. It comes back to coaching. It comes back to all of it. So we got to look at some of these things that the Chiefs have done. And I want to start with and stick to the wide receivers, because we mentioned that we knew CeeDee Lamb and we knew George Pickens could go off. We knew Dak. He threw for 400, or excuse me, the Dallas Cowboys had 400 some yards last week, and they put 457 on the Chiefs this week. That offense was really good, and you knew what they were going to do. I'm a guy that just talks once a week about the Chiefs, and I knew exactly the game plan for the Dallas Cowboys was to throw the ball and who they were throwing it to. So at that point, the Chiefs know what the game plan is. It's just a skill thing. It's just a personnel thing. You don't have the right guys on the field. You don't have, and especially when Trent McDuffie is known as one of the best slot corners, and maybe not the best corner in the league, possibly. He's known for being one of the best corners in the league, and he looked like a third grader out there against CeeDee Lamb. And it's no disrespect. No disrespect to Trent McDuffie. CeeDee Lamb's one of the best receivers in the league. But that is what Trent McDuffie's on the team for, guys. Trent McDuffie is on the team to stop one of the best receivers on the other team. He's meant to really play in the slot, but the Chiefs don't have a very good third corner, which I think they do. That's another conversation. Mo Williams, who's not getting any playing time for no reason, the rookie, who has played great early in the season, and Spags decides to bench him. I think he could be a great third corner. He could be an outside guy, and Trent McDuffie could play inside. But with the personnel that they're running now, Chamari Connor, that guy is barbecue chicken. You could go buy him at Gates Barbecue. That's the kind of barbecue chicken he is right now. That guy is horrible. That guy will be gone next year. He cannot be on the field. And this all I don't want to necessarily hit always on the secondary, because it always leads back to kind of the mesh of the team. But when you can't get to the quarterback because of your pass rush, you have to make a choice. Most teams have to make a choice. It's either you spend money on the pass rush or you spend money on your secondary, because they both go hand in hand. Linebackers, you want a good tackling linebacker and you want a good coverage linebacker, but overall, you don't have to go crazy. They're kind of doing the same thing. They'll blitz sometimes, they stop the run, and then they got to cover every once in a while in a zone. You're not asking them to play man very much unless you're an elite linebacker. So you have to spend your money on D line or corner. And the Chiefs basically have done none. They've spent in other ways, and they have Chris Jones, who's playing solid these last 5 or 6 games. But overall, he's not playing to the Chris Jones that we know, the superhero third down Chris Jones that we know, and you're not getting any pressure. So then, when you're not getting any pressure, and you're giving Dak, who's a capable gunslinging quarterback who loves to throw the ball, say what you want, he may not be the greatest, and you're not going to put him maybe in your top 15, maybe top 10. He's probably around that 9 to 13 range, I would guess. But he can still throw the ball, guys. And you have to stop him because he's the one throwing the ball. And so to do that, you got to either get to him through the pass rush, or your corners have to be and DBs have to be locked down. And the Chiefs got away with it a few years ago when it was McDuffie and Snead on the outside. The pass rush didn't have to be as good because you had the lockdown corner. But when your number one lockdown corner is getting cooked and you can't get pass rush, that's a problem. That's a problem. You can't get to the quarterback, and your best corner, who you have to decide this offseason if you're going to give $130 million to, can't perform on a big stage and against one of the best receivers in the league. You have to make a choice there, guys. You have to make a choice there. So the DBs didn't play very good. I think overall the Chris Jones had a good game, like we mentioned, but the defense continued to let the offense down. And Mahomes can't do it all. He's not 2018 Mahomes, he's not 2019 Mahomes, he's not even 2021 Mahomes. But he's playing like a very capable quarterback and one of the best 3 to 5 in the league right now. For what he's been given and what he's going through, the situations, the personnel, he's playing incredible for what he's got to go through. But when your team can't get you the ball back, there's not a lot you can do, guys. You can't, when it's 3rd and 9 and a dump screen to a tight end gets you a first down because you decide to send the dogs and you're not prepared to stop 3rd and longs. The Chiefs are, I saw it earlier today, 29th. The Chiefs are 29th in giving up 3rd and longs. They are the bottom 3 worst teams in giving up third. It's classified as 3rd and 7. It's 3rd and long. So anything 3rd and 7 and over. They are 29th in the league. They give up them all the time. The defense cannot get a stop. And it's either personnel. Maybe the Chiefs are getting old. They have some young guys, but there's other guys that are getting up there in age. Your D-line can't get to the pass rush. And, you're not getting those Chris Jones vintage 3rd down sacks that get you off the field, from 2023 and 2022. Those are gone. And it's time to fully flip the script on this defense and on this team. And you're going to have to make a lot of changes in the offseason that we'll get to later. But again, Mahomes played great. I think it's one of maybe 3 games that he's lost where he's thrown 4 touchdowns. I mean, this year, I saw another stat today. This year, Mahomes, Chiefs had a lead in the 4th quarter. They basically consider it a comeback. When you take the lead in the 4th quarter, you've made a comeback to get the lead. Mahomes this year alone has made a comeback to take the league, and then the Chiefs have blown it and lost the game 3 times this year. Tom Brady, that's happened to Tom Brady 3 times in his first 15 seasons. His defense was able to make stops, get him the ball back. Mahomes' defense is not doing him any favors. You can't put everything on the guy. I get that he is Superman. I get he does the rip the chest, but he can't do it all. He can't make tackles. He can't get interceptions. He can't do it all. The guy is playing crazy for his situation. You have to give praise when praise is due. Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the league. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. So let's get into the playoffs now, because this is kind of the this is exactly where the Chiefs didn't want to be. We mentioned last week that we needed 6-1 or 7-0, and that was at the Colts game. Then they won, and we needed to go 6-0 or 5-1. Well, I mentioned last week that they could only lose one game. And if it was going to be one loss in this last 6 games, it had to be against an NFC opponent, which was the Cowboys. You can't lose the AFC games because it messes with your standing and the tiebreakers. And so if you have a tiebreaker with somebody else and they've got more AFC wins than you, then they get the edge. So as much as the loss hurts, it doesn't mean it's over. It doesn't mean that the Chiefs season's over, that we're going to be doing, looking at drafts in a couple weeks, or we're going to be doing mock drafts, or we're going to be talking about offseason moves all the time. No, the Chiefs still have a fighting chance. And even if they lose another game, they still have a fighting chance. It's so hard. You need every piece to fall for you. But to make the playoffs, essentially, the Chiefs have to win out. They have to win out. You want 100% guarantee, win the next 5 games and win out. And here's what I mean. So if they play Sunday night against Houston is in the same boat as the Chiefs, and you almost were rooting for, if you watch the Houston and Colts game last week on Sunday, you wanted Houston to win. I know that sounds kind of backwards. You're like, whoa, why? We're fighting that spot because you have the tiebreaker against the Colts. So if Houston can somehow win the AFC South, sneak up to the number 1 seed, and then they'll turn into number 1 in the South, that win the division, and they'll be one of the top 4 seeds. And let's say the Colts fall out of the AFC South guaranteed spot, and then they fall into one of the last 3, 5, 6, and 7 spot. Well, when you're fighting for those spots, the Chiefs have already beat the Colts. They have the tiebreaker. So they will get ahead. They get the edge there. Now, you have if you beat Houston, you have the edge too, but there's still, you want the collapse of the Colts because 1, that's one team that'll fall out completely. 2, you have the tiebreaker. Houston's playing really good. We'll talk about Houston in a little bit, but Houston's playing great. So you can't, you obviously have to beat them, but they might not fall the rest of the season. Their defense is playing really great. So you still have to watch Jacksonville, who's also in the South. You still have to watch the Bills. You still have to watch the Chargers. And Pittsburgh looks like they're going to fall apart. So Pittsburgh might not be an issue. But you still have to deal with Houston. You still have to deal with Chargers. You have to deal with the Jags. You still have to deal with the Bills. So if the Chiefs win out, it's a very good chance that they're going to make the playoffs. But they have to win out. The hardest games are over. They won't face, as much as we talked about the secondary and having issues with the secondary, having issues with the defense, that last game against Dallas was by far the hardest offense that they're going to have to face. Going forward, the offenses that they're going to face, the teams that they're going to face, they're not going to be they're not top level. You're going to play Houston. You're playing the Raiders, which you should smoke. You're playing Titans, which you should beat. You're playing the Chargers, and you're playing the Broncos. Houston and Broncos are probably tied for the offense, but I'd probably give it to the Broncos. So the offense, on the defensive side for the Chiefs, they've got a cakewalk. They should be able to hold opponents to 20 points or less. They should be able to play, come off a bad win or a bad loss from the Cowboys, make up for it, turn the last 5 games around, turn it on, and show that you're an elite defense ready for the playoffs. The schedule is in the favor of the Chiefs right now. But some of these other teams, they have a lot harder games, including the Chargers, it came out this week that Justin Herbert's left wrist is not doing good, and he's going to be playing injured. Their offensive line is beat up. They play probably the hardest schedule out of all the teams that the Chiefs are fighting for these playoff spots. So the collapse of the Chargers is more than likely. The collapse of the Colts is more than likely. As much as we talked about the Colts a few weeks ago being this elite offense, number 1 offense, all of this, the Colts might drop everything and miss the playoffs because Daniel Jones is injured. Daniel Jones is injured with his wrist injury, and they haven't been playing good. I think Jonathan Taylor's out of gas. He was in the conversation for MVP. We thought he had a chance to win the MVP. He was having Saquon Barkley season through 11 games last year. Saquon Barkley had one of the best running back seasons in a long time from running backs last year, and Jonathan Taylor was at 11 games and basically at the same stats. So we thought Jonathan Taylor was going to take over, and I think he's run out of gas. I think they used him too much. So you're as a Chiefs fan, you're hoping for the collapse of the Colts. The Chargers aren't looking good. You have a chance to get the tiebreaker on them, and you're hoping that they collapse. That's two teams that you don't have to worry about. Houston, if the Colts collapse, you don't have to worry about Houston necessarily because they're going to win the division. So they're already in. So then it's really just Buffalo and Jaguars. Buffalo's probably not going to win the division. Patriots look like they're going to take it. So you don't have the tiebreaker on them. So you got to hope that either Buffalo collapses or they're probably getting in. And then Jacksonville, they beat you as well, Chiefs. So you either have to hope for their collapse or they're probably getting in. So there's really one spot left, guys. We're talking about the 7 seed to get into the playoffs. We are talking about number 7. That's probably the most realistic option for the Chiefs to make the playoffs. Of course, there's an option where a bunch of teams lose. I'm just being realistic and thinking teams are probably going to go at least 3-2 the rest of the season, if not better. The teams that they're chasing, the playoff teams. So you're fighting for a 7 seed, and I hate that we have to, go through these different Rubik's Cube combinations to get the Chiefs to the playoffs, but that's what it's going to come down to, guys. That is literally what it's going to come down to. And it's because of the silly losses and just early in the season. I talked about you don't want to get hot too early. You want to get hot at the right time. And the Chiefs have the ability to get hot at the right time. If there was any 6-6 team that could make a run for the Super Bowl and win it all, it's a Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs. I think a lot of people would agree with that. There's a lot of national media. I'm sure there's a lot of people that listen to podcasts, all of that. They still have a little hope for the Chiefs. So if there's any team, any head coach, quarterback duo, anybody there's people going to be betting money. Shout out to Missouri for getting sports betting, by the way. They're going to be betting money that the Chiefs make the playoffs because there's still a little hope. And if any team could do it, it's this Kansas City Chiefs team. One of the best built personnel on paper-wise in the last 3 years. This team is better than last year's 15-2 team. The records obviously don't show it, but this team is better than the 15-2 team last year. That 15-2 team last year won those 11 one-score games, including the playoffs. That team got lucky and blocked a field goal against Denver. They had all of that luck, that football luck, those fumbles that bounce one way or the other. All of the luck went last year, and then now all the bad luck is this year. Because we talked about the Chiefs are 5 plays away from probably being, 8-4, 9-3. There is a possibility that the Chiefs could have had 10 wins because the way things have fallen and just off one play, one undisciplined play, one penalty. It's the small things. They call it a game of inches, and that sometimes means literally like a toe tap to the sideline, but that also means a game of inches of just one single thing can determine the game. And you look broadly and Mahomes could have played better or he could have hit that pass. But when you take the facts of the game, which is this is how the game happened, and this one play changed the outcome. For instance, the Philadelphia game, and Mahomes throws the slant to Kelsey. He bobbles it. It gets intercepted. I put all my money on it that the Chiefs were winning that game if they score a touchdown there. If Chris Jones doesn't watch Trevor Lawrence fall twice on the ground, get up, and score a touchdown, the Chiefs beat the Jaguars. So, yes, there could have been different plays made during the game. There could have been different things, but there are singular plays that go back to wins and losses. And a lot of singular plays have happened where it screwed the Chiefs. And it's their fault. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not blaming the refs. I'm not blaming, the other teams. I'm not saying the NFL's rigged. The Chiefs lost, but it's because of execution. It's because of penalties. It's because of coaching. So, again, the Chiefs have to win out to get to the playoffs. And don't let anybody tell you different. If the Chiefs go 10-7, they're not making it. And you know what's funny is if the Chiefs lose this week, I'm going to talk next week about how the Chiefs might be able to make the playoffs if everything falls right. So, but seriously, they need 11 wins. They need to win 5 in a row. There's no way that they get in with 10. It's going to be like a 3% chance, 5% chance if they lose one of these next 5 games that they make it to the playoffs. When you talk about the Rubik's Cube, solving that Rubik's Cube and all these different combinations, if they lose another game in the next 5, they have to have the perfect combination to make the playoffs. And the media will say, oh, technically they could still make it. Don't let them fool you. It'll be so minute of a chance to make the playoffs if they don't win out. 10-7 does not get you in. It would have to be some of the craziest luck to go the Chiefs' way, which they're due for luck, so let's not necessarily rule it out. But it's just going to be super difficult to make the playoffs, to have everything fall your way if you lose another game. If you get to 11 wins, that should get you in. That is more concrete. That should get you in. So let's talk about – so after the Chiefs lost to the Cowboys, I was in my feelings a little bit. Let's just call it how it is. And I decided to kind of just put my thoughts on paper, and then I had ChatGPT kind of write this long, just kind of how I was feeling. I didn't necessarily like have it write it, but I put all my thoughts in it, and then it cleaned it up for me. You know, I asked it to pull some facts for me, but I wrote this kind of longer paragraphed article, let's call it. I put it on Substack, so if you guys want to read it, you can go to my Substack. It's a SITG show, but we'll break it down here on the show. So I think that there are 5 key offseason moves the Chiefs have to make to change the trajectory of the Chiefs for the next 5 years. Let me know in the comments what you guys think your 5 are, or at least throw me a couple, and let's talk about them. But I'm going to give you my 5, and I'm going to start with one honorable mention, and then I'm going to get to my list. So number 1 for the honorable mention, my honorable mention is the Chiefs have to upgrade the running back position. This may be in some people's top 5, and it's been horrible. Isaiah Pacheco has been awful. Kareem Hunt's been great for what he is, a 30-year-old running back. But overall, running back is not as important to me as it is to other people. They think fixing the running back room is going to change everything. If the Chiefs had traded for Breece Hall and gave up a 3rd-round pick, would I be upset at Brett Veach? No. I think that would have been an okay move, if not a solid move. But it's not something I would have done if I was GM. I'm similar to Andy Reid. I don't value the running back as much, even though it does seem like offenses are starting to slowly change back to running back. You know, if you watch the Bears game against the Eagles this last weekend, they had 2 100-yard rushers. They ran for over 200 yards with 2 different guys. So, you know, you're getting back to that ground and pound aspect. So maybe that is something that would intrigue the Chiefs. But with Patrick Mahomes, you can't take the ball out of his hands all the time. Now, do the Chiefs need to get a running back? Absolutely. I'm not negating that. I'm not getting rid of that. They absolutely need to get a running back. Isaiah Pacheco is gone. So all the Pacheco fans, I'm sorry, but if he comes back for veteran minimum, that's the only way he's coming back to the Chiefs. Brashard Smith will be on the roster. Kareem Hunt will probably get another 1-year deal. He'll be the goal line back, 3rd and 1. They call it 3rd and Hunt. He'll come back, and the Chiefs are probably going to make some kind of splash in free agency. Or maybe if Brashard Smith makes a step up, maybe he becomes the starter. But that's my honorable mention. It's not my top priority. I don't think it's the Chiefs get a running back and then all their problems are solved. That's why it's not in my top 5. So here's my top 5. Number 1, and I think most of you guys can agree with this, Matt Nagy has to get fired. And let me explain. I'm not just some Matt Nagy hater. I don't think that he is the sole reason for all of the Chiefs' offensive problems. I don't believe that. I put more of my blame eggs in Andy Reid's basket. Andy Reid calls the plays when it's most important. Matt Nagy calls plays when it's against the Raiders. And I'm sure there's some mix in between on the different levels of opponents and situations. But at the end of the day, Andy Reid always explains he has 51%. He makes the final say. So I put more blame on Andy Reid, but Matt Nagy is going to get fired. And here's why. When you have Mahomes in the prime of his career, 30 years old, he is in the middle of his prime, and you possibly, if not don't, make the playoffs with the best quarterback of this generation, somebody has to be responsible. And the Hunt family is not getting rid of Andy Reid for missing the playoffs 1 year. Now, maybe if he misses it 2 years in a row, you have to make changes to the head coach. But they're not going to fire Andy Reid, or Andy Reid's probably not retiring because they missed the playoffs. So the scapegoat is going to be Matt Nagy. Now, does Matt Nagy deserve some of the fire? And has he been not a great offensive coordinator? His scheme has been horrible. He's been predictable. Absolutely. And that's why it's okay to fire him. But if the Chiefs were playing the same and it was Eric Bieniemy, I don't know if you would necessarily fire Eric Bieniemy because his creativeness, and it wasn't necessarily his fault. But Matt Nagy does hold fault in this. But again, I blame Andy Reid more. I think Andy Reid is not necessarily the full problem, but I think he got into his own ways. I think you're starting to see some of that trickle off in Philadelphia from Andy Reid. The last few years of Andy Reid, where he wasn't great. He had great players. He still had Michael Vick. He still had LaShawn McCoy. He had Jeremy Maclin. He had guys. He had a team that was second round playoffs. And I think he's getting into his own way, and it's worked, but the league is now caught up to the Chiefs. They talk about how the league originally caught up to the Chiefs speedsters, the wide receivers, and teams started putting two safeties over the top so that the Chiefs couldn't beat him over the top. Tyreek Hill, throw it up. He'd outrun everybody. Well, the team has started to build that kind of formula. You've seen McCole Hardman. You've seen Hollywood Brown. You've seen Xavier Worthy. You're seeing speedsters. You're seeing speed guys that are getting added to the roster because the Chiefs think that they can replicate what they did with Tyreek Hill in 2019 or in 2020. And the league is caught up. The league knows the Chiefs playbook. They know an RPO, Mahomes is throwing it. They know the Chiefs are not running the ball on 2nd and 8. The Chiefs are figured out. And so something has to change in that offensive side. Something has to change. You're not going to get rid of Spags. Spags is well-deserved. He's been to multiple Super Bowls, including with the Giants and the Chiefs. And the personnel is the problem on defense. It's not necessarily coaching. Spags is coaching with what he has. So when he's predictable, it's similar on offense and defense because the league has caught up to the Chiefs on the offensive side and the defensive side, if we look at it more broadly. Because when Spags is sending a corner blitz on 3rd down, everybody knows it's coming. When I scream it all the time at the TV, send the dogs. When Spags is sending the dogs. But that's a personnel problem. That's not a coaching problem. That's not a Spags problem. Spags has to do that because he can't get pressure. They don't have a pass rush to get pressure, so he's got to send a corner. Or he's got to send a safety off the edge to get more guys to create pressure. On the offensive side of the ball, at least in my opinion, you have way too many guys that are good skill players to be lacking on the offensive side of the ball. Rashee Rice is going to end up being a huge steal for the Chiefs, and he should be the number one target going forward into 2026. Rashee Rice is going to be great. Him and Mahomes are going to have that connection just like Travis Kelce and Mahomes do now. It may take a few more years to get Kelce Mahomes-esque, but they both have crazy chemistry, and they're going to be together for a long time, at least over the next 5 years. But Worthy, man, Worthy is that guy is. I don't. Let me hold on. Let me not get too crazy. But there's a difference between running the 40-yard dash and game speed. So I don't want to call him slow because he ran the fastest 40-yard dash. But when that guy is in pads on the field, and I know he's playing through injury, so I don't want to hate too much. But the guy he's not the same. He's not the same as he was last year, and he's not this super fast guy. He's not the quick Tyreek Hill. And then you have Hollywood Brown and Mahomes have a great chemistry as well. But you have all of these guys, and you have to blame somebody. And you're not getting rid of Xavier Worthy. You're not getting rid of Rashee Rice. You're not getting rid of Travis Kelce unless he retires. You might get rid of Hollywood Brown, but that might be to go get somebody else, a younger version of somebody else, or fill your running back position. But reality is the running back room gets hated, and the offensive and Matt Nagy's getting hated because the Chiefs are so good in every other spot. Offensive line is top 5, and they play horrible, and their backups are awful. They have one of the best tight ends in the league. He's probably going to finish second in majority of the season stats this year, and receiving yards, touchdowns, all of that. Receiving room is the best it's been since Tyreek Hill's left. So you can't blame these things. So you gotta pinpoint your blame somewhere, and you're gonna blame Matt Nagy, and you're gonna blame the running back room as well. And that's why you're gonna upgrade the running back room, and you're gonna fire Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy's gonna be the scapegoat, and they're gonna have to go get somebody. Now, would I hate Doug Peterson coming from the Andy Reid tree, being the offensive coordinator? I'd love it. I would love it. But to move on and make some kind of shakeup in the offense and in the Chiefs organization, moves have to be made. Number one is Matt Nagy has to go. Matt Nagy has to go. So number two is the Chiefs need to make a huge splash on the D-line. We talked about it a lot during the show earlier. We've talked about it the last few weeks. The D-line has to be the number one player priority over the offseason, over running back, over offensive line, over safeties, over corners, all of it. In my opinion, I believe that you should invest in the D-line, and you don't have to invest so much in your secondary because you can get to the pass rush. You can get to the quarterback, and you can stop the run. The Chiefs have the linebackers to stop the run, so you're not even really worried about the run. You need guys that can get to the quarterback. And so and the free agent list is not great. They're going to have to make a big splash in a trade, and who knows what they're going to do. But they got to figure something out. Brett Veach is going to have to wiggle this cap room issue. The Chiefs are in a cap chokehold, salary cap chokehold, because they've decided to pay all these guys. Chris Jones is on the other side of 30, and he's making $45 million cap hit next year. You know, they've made a lot of decisions to win Super Bowls, and now you're kind of seeing the after effect when guys get old, that they felt like they deserved to get paid. And I think there's a lot of decisions that they made that they shouldn't have, but it worked because you got back to the Super Bowl and you went 3 times and you won 2. But you're going to start seeing some of these after effects. And so the Chiefs got to make moves now. So the pass rush has to be the number one player. I don't care if it's an edge rusher. I don't care if it's another D tackle next to Chris Jones who can help take some of the double teams off of him. It's got to be somebody. There has to be somebody out there that can help Chris Jones, help other pass rushers. Karlaftis didn't even play last week. Oh, no, he did. You didn't see him at all. You paid the guy $94 million. You're paying him $94 million over the next 6 years, and the guy hasn't – he was at home eating Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, that's the type of guys you have. Now, Ashton Gillotte looks good for a rookie. The Chiefs this will be the D-line going into the offseason. George Karlaftis, Ashton Gillotte, Norman Lawn, or whatever his name is, and Chris Jones. So 2 rookies going into year 2, and then Chris Jones and George Karlaftis. The next 4 spots are wide open for anybody that wants to come rush the quarterback. The next 4 guys, Derek Nottie, you're gone. I'm sorry. Mike Pennell, gone. Tillery, gone. All of these guys are gone. The D-line room is getting completely revamped. That's got to be number one player priority going into the offseason. So this is kind of my hot take, number 3. I got a lot of hate, not necessarily hate, but a lot of disagreement between my posts and just in comments and things like that. So I want to give credit where credit's due. This is, I want to say Lance from The Spoken originally came up with this take. He was pretty on it, I would say, in the last offseason. And I've come around to it, and I agree with him. So shout out to Lance. But my take is that I think the Chiefs should trade Trent McDuffie this offseason. I think that you can get a solid return on your investment, and that's the way that you have to look at it when you don't have any cap space and you don't have cap flexibility like other teams. So the only way is to get assets back for a guy that you don't want to pay. And to me, I don't want to pay a corner $130 million a year, or not a year, over 4 or 5 years, $30 million a year, basically. I don't want to pay a guy that. I don't want to pay a corner who the Chiefs made the right decision with Snead, traded him, and I think they got a 4th-round pick. The guy hasn't played more than 6 snaps and been injured for the last 2 years with the Titans. So that was a good move. And Brett Veach is notorious for being able to find these young corners and guys that can play very good. Jalen Watson was a late draft pick. Noah Williams, middle of the round, middle picks. Joshua Williams, late pick. Jamar Connor, as much as he's barbecue chicken at Gates, a late pick, and he's been solid. He's not a superstar. He's not Trent McDuffie, but he's a viable option. Now, yes, the Chiefs would have to go out and find maybe a number 1 corner or at least a B-level talent, B- level guy to be number 1 to stick next to Jalen Watson and Noah Williams. Absolutely. I'm not saying that they don't, in free agency or through the draft kind of replenish, but you could probably get a 1st and a 3rd for Trent McDuffie. Sauce Gardner went for 2 firsts, and we talked about how they are kind of on the same playing field. They would get the same annual pay per year. Sauce is getting about $29-30 million a year. Trent McDuffie's probably looking in that same range of 27 to 29, 30. So I took the value down a little bit at least. I mean, Trent McDuffie had a bad game, yes, but he still holds some value. He's still a great football player. So a 1st and a 3rd, or maybe like a 2nd and a 3rd. I mean, the Chiefs can get some good value. They can get some good value, and they only have 6 picks this year coming into 2026. So if you can turn Trent McDuffie into 2 picks, and now you have 8 rookies coming on your team to replenish some of these, and you have rookie contracts filling in roles, and maybe you hit on 1 or 2 guys, especially if you get a 1st-round pick, and let's say the Chiefs don't make the playoffs, depending who you trade them to, you might have pick 14 and pick 20. And maybe you package those to move up to pick 8. And now you get an elite edge rusher. And you just turn Trent McDuffie into an elite edge rusher. So there's more flexibility when you move a guy like Trent McDuffie. When the Chiefs if they sign him this offseason, nothing's changing. They don't have the cap to do it. You have one of the highest paid centers. You have one of the highest paid right guards, the highest paid kicker, one of the highest linebackers, the highest D tackle. Mahomes is due for a restructure and extension as well, guys. I know he signed this 10-year deal, but Mahomes making like $45 million a year, and Jared Goff's making $60. He's going to want a pay raise, so he's going to have to restructure. And Travis Kelce is not going to play for free if he comes back. And you're lucky with your left side of the line. You still got rookie deals, and you're good there. And there's still other guys to pay. I mean, I think even we talked about Jalen Watson. Jalen Watson's coming up on a deal. He's going to need a deal. Leo Chenal, who we're going to talk about and we'll get into now. There's guys that are going to need deals. So my opinion is that you have to trade Trent McDuffie in the offseason. And if I could go back and zoom out 1,000 feet and look over what the Chiefs should have done, they should have traded Trent McDuffie this past offseason because they could have got a higher value. I think they could have got a first and a second for sure, guaranteed. Sauce went for two firsts. They could have got probably a first and a second or a first and a third guaranteed. I don't know if a first and a third is guaranteed now. Trent McDuffie's 1 year older. Also, he's on his 5th year rookie deal option. So the reason why Sauce went for two firsts is because he's signed and he's guaranteed to stay on the team. If Trent McDuffie doesn't sign and ask for an extension, let's say they trade him to the 49ers and the 49ers offer him an extension that he doesn't like, well, the 49ers just traded a first and a third for a 1 year of Trent McDuffie, and then he walks in free agency. So that's an issue, and it may not be a first and a third now. It might be a second and a fourth. But if I could redo it, I would have traded Trent McDuffie this last offseason. And now the Chiefs have to make a decision whether they're going to pay him $130 million or they're going to let him walk, which is idiotic, or you trade him for some assets and get value back to help rebuild the team, because you can't just look at next year. You got to look at 3 years from now. You got to look at who the Chiefs are bringing in, who's young, and the contracts, the way things line up. You have to look ahead, because then you can start to have a trajectory. You know when. So like if this is considered a rebuilding year for the Chiefs, where they miss the playoffs, they have picked 14, they get, which the Chiefs haven't picked in a long time, and they get kind of one of those blue chip pieces. Well, you're probably looking, and of course you want to win, but you're probably looking at the Chiefs getting back on track 2 years from then. It's going to take another season of kind of cohesiveness. A lot of, if Matt Nagy gets fired, if they do trade Trent McDuffie, and some guys don't come back, they don't resign, they walk, all these things, there's going to be some cohesiveness, and it's going to take a few years. So the Chiefs are on that tiptoe. If they don't make the playoffs, they got to think a few years from now, or at least 2 years from now, because your team is not structurally sound salary-wise going into next year. Now, some people might say the salary cap is imaginary, and it might be. And there's some things that I don't know. I don't know about restructures. I don't know about how bonuses fully work. I know restructures, you can pay a guy a bunch of money up front, and I don't know if Clark Hunt is wanting to pay that. He doesn't really want to even pay for a new stadium, so why would he want to pay somebody? Because I believe when they restructure and somebody has a signing bonus, that comes directly from the owner. That comes out of the company of the Chiefs. That is not like paid through your weekly check that you get from the team. Clark Hunt writes you a check, and that is from his pocket. So, again, I understand that salary cap is imaginary and people can do a lot of things. But if you look at the Eagles, who are very aggressive and they want to win, they're going to be in salary cap hell in 3 years. Because what they do is they just go get every big name guy that's available, give them a bunch of cash up front, and then kick all of the salary down to the last year. So, for instance, like Jalen Phillips, I don't know his contract, but let's say he's making $10 million a year. Well, instead of that, they gave him some cash up front, and he's making a $1 million a year going towards the cap. Then on year 3 of his deal, he's making $28 million a year, and so he's affecting their cap then. And then what they'll do is they'll probably take that 28, stretch it out even farther. So they're just kicking the can down the road, is what it's called. And Clark Hunt is not like that. He's not that aggressive. He operates on a budget, because as much as he wants to win Super Bowls and loves the NFL and all that, he is a businessman, and he's going to operate on a budget. So my thought is the Chiefs trade Trent McDuffie in the offseason. All right, so number four must that I think the Chiefs need to do in the offseason. You have to extend Rashee Rice, and you have to extend Leo Chenal. And here's why. Rashee Rice, again, is going to be the next Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes duo. Rashee Rice is picked up very well, and I don't know if it's him and Travis Kelce are close, and they just kind of have that same kind of mind where they know how to sit in zone. And Rashee Rice is a very young wide receiver that can grow with Mahomes over these next 5 to 6 years. So don't be surprised if you see the Chiefs sign him for a 5-year, I don't know what his annual salary be or what he's worth, because some of it with the um, injuries that he's had and then also kind of the off the field issues, I don't know his value. But I think it's a priority that the Chiefs sign him because Kelsey's not going to be here forever. And I mean, Kelsey technically could retire after the season. You want to bring the guy that's at least got the, that connection with Mahomes. You don't want to let Rashee Rice, because if Rashee Rice comes back next year and has 1,500 yards and let's call it 12 touchdowns. Well, now you got to pay him wide receiver one money. Now you have to pay him, the big bucks, because he just had the wide receiver one a season. He just played a wide receiver one season, 1,500 yards, 12 touchdowns. I mean, he's the man. But if you can pay him this offseason, you get him 1 year earlier on the extension of his rookie deal. So the annual per year is stretched out one more year. Yes, it might be $22 million a year over 5 years, but the first couple of years, you're still paying him that rookie deal. And so you get him for a bargain. Rashee Rice was a second round pick, so he doesn't get a fifth year option like first round picks do. So if you don't know that, a first round pick in the NFL, you get what's called a rookie fifth year option. So you're guaranteed 4 years of that player if you want him. And then on a first round pick, you can exercise the option for a fifth year. So Chiefs fans, it's what the Chiefs did for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire played for 4 years, and the Chiefs decided they were going to exercise his fifth year, but they didn't give him a contract extension. They were going to let him walk because he wasn't that good, but they still got him for cheap. But that's only for first round picks, and that's because you want to be able to keep your talent. But you can offer them contract extensions during that 1 year extension of the fifth year. So, for instance, Trent McDuffie, next year, going into next season, we would exercise his fifth year option. But it's expected that Trent McDuffie would get a contract extension with that, because if he's playing for $6 million a year, whatever the rookie deals are, and he tears his ACL, well, then he's lost all his money. And you don't want to let him walk, because if you don't give him a contract extension, he'll play his fifth year and then he'll walk and go somewhere else. And then you don't get anything for him. So that's why I feel like the Chiefs should trade him. That's one of the reasons why I think the Chiefs should trade him. But you have the option to do this with Rashee Rice basically a year early on his fourth year rookie year, basically his fourth year rookie deal option. Even though it's not an option, it's guaranteed. But you basically could do the same thing a year early for Rashee Rice. And then also for Leo Chenal, the same thing. And so that's my second thing is Leo Chenal. I think both of those guys are pillars for the Chiefs moving forward because of their age, because they've been on multiple Super Bowl teams appearing. I think they've won one Super Bowl and they've lost one Super Bowl. But they've been through a lot. They've been through a lot of playoff games, and they're building blocks going forward. Leo Chenal is important because, one, he's a freak athlete, and I think he's just very important for the Chiefs going forward. But two, Drew Tranquill is getting old. You're going to need a second linebacker. Nick Bolton is on the team for a while. He signed his contract extension. He's not going anywhere. But you still need that kind of duo. Drew Tranquill's great, but I think he's coming to his, kind of towards his end of his career. He's getting slower, and you want younger guys. And I think you can get a steal for Leo Chenal. I think you can get a good deal for him. Even though he's played great, he's not nationally known. He's not going to get the high linebacker number compared to what Nick Bolton was getting because of things that Nick Bolton did in the Super Bowl and things like that. Leo Chenal, he's known for Kansas City, but he's not known everywhere. And so you're going to get him on a better deal. So that's why I prioritize these two guys the most to get paid this offseason, because these are guys that are building blocks going forward for the next 3 to 5 years. They're guys that have been through a lot, been through things with Mahomes, and you have a chance to get them cheaper than you would if you waited a year. And then the last thing that I would do that I think is a must for the Chiefs this offseason, number 5, is I think using however many picks, if it's the 6 draft picks that they have now, or if it's they trade Trent McDuffie and get 7 or 8 picks or whatever they do to acquire more picks, you have to use it all, or at least 5 of the 6 picks have to be rebuilding the defense. The defense needs to get younger and needs to get faster. 2 things that are key and you get from rookies. And you rebuild that defense, spend all your picks, go get you more D tackles, go get you more corners, go get safeties to replace Brian Cook, go get safeties to replace Jamari Connor, go get you a corner that's your 4th corner. That's a rookie. Because 1, they're cheap. They're cheap, but also 2, Beach is known for drafting defense very well. And so this is a year where you have a chance to rebuild, retool, and get your salary cap down. You could focus on the D-line because that was our number 1 option. Go pay somebody or go make a trade for somebody in the offseason for D-line. But the rest of the spots, guys, they're not, in my opinion, they're not that valuable. To me, I'd rather have a number 1 edge rusher than a number 1 corner. Give me Micah Parsons over a Jalen Ramsey. Give me a Myles Garrett over a – see, I mean, I can't even name a safety that's what I would think. Give me Myles Garrett over Sauce Gardner. The ability that they have to disrupt the opposing team's offense, pass rushers, is it helps you everywhere else. They're one of the only positions that truly affect the game that affects the rest of their team. Because if the pass rush gets, if you're a pass rusher and you get there, then great, you did your job, you got a sack. If you don't get there, now you're leaving your corners on an island, or you're leaving your slow linebackers on an island to cover a fast tight end. So it's to me, it's so important to get D-line, and then the rest of the guys can be a bunch of rookies. I mean, they could be young guys. They could be guys that can grow into these positions. You don't need – I'm sorry, you don't need Trent McDuffie. You don't need Trent McDuffie. And it's no hate. The guy is a great football player, but you should not pay. I think it's a huge mistake if the Chiefs pay Trent McDuffie and don't move him this offseason. They have a chance to go get some pass rusher. And it doesn't even have to be necessarily – you could go with the route of getting a bunch of B player rushers and have fresh legs always. Have them churning in. All right, we're going to play these 4. Next 4 come in. Next 4. I don't care what it is, but you got to get pressure. So it's either you go get an all-star in Trey Hendrickson, who's available, but he's old. I don't know if I would do that. Or you go get some B-level guys who you've got, let's say you pay 2 B-level guys, and you're just constantly moving in and out. You're constantly flipping and getting multiple guys in. But to me, linebackers, safeties, corners, they're not as valuable as the D-line. So invest on the D-line through free agency, through trades, and go big or go home. Try to make a splash and replenish the defense through the draft. Use 5 of those 6 picks to replenish safety, replenish DB, replenish linebacker, let Drew Tranquill go or trade him, however it is. I don't know his contract deal yet, but let him go. Replenish through the draft. Keep the young contract, the cheap contracts for the young guys. Replenish the defense. You got guys flying around. There's a guy, Jeffrey Bossa out of Oregon. That is a perfect replacement for Drew Tranquill. So rebuild through the draft. That is my 5th and final hot take for the Chiefs this offseason. So those are my 5 essentials that I think that the Chiefs need to do this offseason to improve this, what you would call a bummer of a year. And there's no other way to put it. So let me know what you guys think, or let me know what some of the things that you think the Chiefs should do. Should they fire Matt Nagy? Should they trade Trent McDuffie? Let me know. I want to hear. So let's move on to the Chiefs versus the Texans. So Sunday Night Football, Week 14. This is a huge game for the Chiefs. We talked about they've got to basically win out, or it becomes basically non-existent that the Chiefs make the playoffs. And the Houston Texans are probably one of the hottest teams right now when it comes to how they're playing. Their defense is insane. And so we're talking about pass rush. This is what I'm talking about. Is yes, the Houston's got best of both worlds, and what I mean by that is they have a number one corner in Derek Stingley, and they have an amazing pass rush, and it works for both of them. Now their offensive line is horrible, and some of their other positions aren't great, but they decided they were going to spend money on those two positions on the defense, and their defense is playing like the number one defense in the league right now. And their pass rush is definitely one of the top two, if not two. Definitely one of the top two, and they might be number one. Danielle Hunter and those guys are playing crazy. And Houston's maybe one of the hottest teams right now. And so they're fighting for a playoff spot just like the Chiefs are. Just like the Chiefs are. They're in the same situation. So this is going to be another playoff atmosphere. The key that the Chiefs have is they have a home game. It's a home game Sunday night, and Arrowhead's going to be rocking. So I don't expect the Chiefs to lose. I don't expect them to come out flat. If you heard over this week, Andy Reid said some of the craziest things I've ever heard. And he said they're going to tickle their tonsils. They're going to go win the next 5 games, and they're going to tickle everybody's tonsils, which crazy. I don't even know what that means. Sounds very sus. But they're going to go tickle all these teams' tonsils. Again, crazy. I can't believe I'm saying that. But that's what Andy Reid said. And you know, his press conference was a little different. Mahomes says they know they got to win the next 5 games. It's win 5 or they're done. So the leaders of the team are addressing that they know they have to win. So this is a must-win. Against the Texans, it's a must-win. Now, here's some issues, though. As much as it is a must-win, the Chiefs are hurt. The Chiefs are playing on, a limp leg right now, if you want to look at it that way. Josh Simmons is probably not going to play. He got injured against the Cowboys on a chip from, I believe, Kareem Hunt. Came in, chip blocked for him, and it possibly shattered his wrist or at least fractured it. He's probably out at least 4 to 6 weeks. And if the Chiefs make the playoffs, he might make it back for the playoffs. So you have Jalen Moore, who struggled earlier in the season because of Josh Simmons' family issue. He started off okay, but he struggled. And now you're asking him to go guard the number one pass rush in the league. So that is a big ask for Jalen Moore. Trey Smith is hurt, and so you might be playing with Mike Caliendo, who the Chiefs call Mike Caliendo a starter, but the guy's not a starter. He's okay. He's a good fill-in, but the guy's not a starter. So you're missing Josh Simmons. You might be missing Trey Smith and Juwan Taylor, who got hurt in the Dallas game. I expect him to play, but he's hurt. He might not play. You have Brian Cook, who has an ankle injury. You still have Noah Gray, who's coming off of a concussion from the Colts game. Chris Roland Wallace, who was hurt, didn't play last week. I mean, there's a ton of guys, not just no names, but there's a ton of guys that might miss this game or are going to be playing hurt. And so, and most teams are hurt the same way. So I don't know the Texans injury report, but I'm sure they've got just as many injuries as the Chiefs do. But don't let it fool you that the Texans are going to come to play and they're just as injured, but there's no excuses. This is do or die the rest of the season. But it's going to be a tough game. It's not going to be a cakewalk. This is not going to be a cakewalk. So here's my keys to the game, because the pass rush is so crazy. You're going to see a lot of Mahomes quick throws, which I hate, but it's the only way to win. You're going to see a lot of Rashee Rice. You're going to see a lot of Travis Kelce, little 2-yard turnarounds. Those are going to happen all the time. The Texans play like 65% of zone. They play, and Mahomes loves playing against zone. That's what him and Kelce, that's what him and Rice love to do. They just kind of run around, sit in a zone, and they find them. So there is some advantages because Houston mostly plays in zone. So that is a plus. And the other plus is the Chiefs wide receivers can't beat man to save their life. So there is some positives going against this defense. But again, they're playing out of their minds. The Texans defense is playing out of their minds. Their pass rush is playing great. So it's still going to be a challenge for the Chiefs. Again, they're going to have to lean on Rice and Worthy. I think those two guys, they got to make up. They got to start playing better. And so they're going to throw the ball. The rush, I don't think, is going to be great. I don't think Pacheco is fully back and fully healthy. You can't ask Kareem Hunt to go rush 30 attempts again. So I think as much as we want the Chiefs to run the ball, run under center, you're not going to see it. They're not going to take the ball out of Mahomes' hands to get you to the playoffs. They're going to run 5 times on the first drive, and then they're going to run 5 times the rest of the game. It's the Andy Reid special. You're going to get the Andy Reid special on Sunday Night Football, and I would be shocked if they ran 15 times. I think Kareem Hunt ran 4 times against Dallas. 3 or 4 times. I mean, something – he had 30 the week before, and then he runs 3. So, quick passes from Mahomes. Rice, Kelsey, Worthy, they got to step up, and they're going to have to carry. Those 3 guys are important for this team. And the 2 things that have to happen that have happened over these last few weeks that have to go, and this is an Andy Reid problem, this is Matt Nagy, this is Spags, all of them. The penalties have to stop. You cannot give up 100 yards worth of penalties and expect to win games. And the Chiefs done that 3 times this year. You cannot expect 100 yards on pass interferences, holdings, false starts, whatever it is. The penalties have to stop. You need 1 clean game to get you back on track. I'm not saying 0. I'm not saying Chiefs pay the refs, but you got to play a clean game. 2, 3 here. A holding every once in a while happens. They get called. Josh Simmons got called for a holding that wasn't a holding. He just killed the guy that was rushing in, knocked him on the ground, and the ref threw it because he didn't even understand how he blocked him like that. So those happen. Those 2, 3 penalties a game happen, but you can't have 12 penalties a game that gets 120 yards. That there's no way to win that. You got to clean it up. And you have to get off the field on 3rd down. CJ Stroud just came back, played well, but he came back from an injury. So this is his 2nd game back. The Chiefs have had success against CJ Stroud, especially in the playoffs and especially at Arrowhead. Arrowhead's going to be loud. It's going to be rocking. And so you have to get off the field on 3rd down. You can't allow CJ Stroud to run around. You can't allow CJ Stroud to find an open guy when it's 3rd and 9 and you don't send anybody, or you send the dogs and he picks up the blitz. You have to get off the field on 3rd down or you won't win the game, Kansas City. Plain and simple. Some smaller key things, I think, is don't do the same thing you did with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens to Nico Collins. Nico Collins is the number 1 receiver. He's not as good as CeeDee Lamb. This Nico Collins is probably the best receiver the Chiefs are playing for the rest of the year. And I think the Chiefs secondary will do fine. But again, you can't allow a guy to go off and get 110, 115 yards on you unless you're stopping everything else. But you can't allow a guy to go crazy on you. It's just the Chiefs pass rush is not good enough to allow CJ Stroud time to throw it to Nico Collins. Nico Collins is a great deep ball guy, and he might get 1 or 2. And if you send 7 to try to get to CJ Stroud and he picks up the blitz and hits Nico Collins, you got to live with it because that's the play call. But you can't give up 4 12-yard gains to Nico Collins and throughout the entire game. You won't win the game that way either. And finally, for coaching, you can't, especially last game, what they did is they started off hot, got cold, and then tried to come back and pick it up. Chiefs, we need a clean game through the entire thing. All 4 quarters, you have to play a solid game. You can't start off hot and then go to 0 and then expect to try to pick it up and come back from behind and win the game. You need to stay hot, and you need to go, 7 points in the first quarter, 10 in the second, 7. You got to stay consistent. You got to keep the game competitive. You can't let them get – if the Chiefs get behind in 2 scores, panic is going to start going in. Panic will happen if the Chiefs get behind 2 scores because they know how important this game is. They know what's at stake. So the Chiefs have to play a complete game. They can't just try to start off hot and then hope that they can turn it back on later, or Mahomes is going to be Superman and make a crazy comeback. It doesn't work like that. So that's what I got. So if you guys got anything, let me know. I want to hear you guys in the comments. Let's chat it up. I do think that the Chiefs are going to win 27-21. I do think that that's kind of where Um, I think it's going to take at least 24 to 27 points to win the game. Uh, Houston's offense isn't this crazy offense or anything, but CJ Stroud is a solid quarterback. He's capable, but I don't think it necessarily takes 30 to win. I think it'll be more if the Chiefs defense shows up, it'll be a defensive battle. And it may be less. It might be like a 21-14 game, especially with just the playoff implications, the atmosphere, Sunday night football. But I'm going to stick with my score 27-21. I think that is I think that's what the score is going to be, and I think Chiefs pull it out, and we fight to live another day. So, thank you guys for stopping in, listening. I appreciate you guys showing up. Again, this is Skin in the Game, hosted by Austin Thompson, aka OZ, and we're going to continue our weekly shows. We moved to Tuesday, 7 p.m. You can follow everywhere on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Substack. All the socials that you can find at ISTG Show. And yeah, let me know. Let me know in the comments what you guys want to talk about as well. We'll continue to talk about the playoff push going forward. And if the Chiefs miss the playoffs, then we'll start throwing out different ideas. We'll talk about the games and recaps, but we'll try to figure out some different topics that we could talk about. So, all right, guys, we'll see you next time. Peace.